Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrie Collins. This is Life Renovations Week 18. Today we're going to talk about something really important, marketing. Well, kind of, in a sense. It's not business marketing, although it can be. It's more like goal marketing. It's time to put your goal out there and into the universe. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that, and also a little bit about getting to know your muscles, and finally a little bit about eating healthy when you're traveling. So the past couple weeks have been really interesting, haven't they? We've been doing less talking and adding in a little more action. This week is all about action. Now the world's in a pretty severe state of change right now, bigger than we've ever seen before. So it's kind of like the Industrial Revolution, where industry was transformed by the speed of machines. We're currently in this thought revolution where our database of universal intelligence is being transformed at the speed by which we can communicate with other people. The resources that we have at our fingertips are absolutely mind-blowing. New information can be spread around the world at lightning speeds. Even something like Wikipedia can be updated by anyone who has information on any topic. Thinkers now have the ability to immediately put their information into the pool of universal thought, share with others, and get feedback right away. We live in a day and age where I can have a face-to-face conversation with someone in China with little or no preparation about any topic I want. Even in 1911, when the master key system was written, to do the same thing, to have a conversation with someone in China, meant you had to get on a boat for a long time, and you could only talk to somebody with a translator. Now, with the click of a button, I can send a letter now. I can send a letter to someone across the world, and they get it in a millisecond. Even 20 years ago, I remember having to write letters with paper and pen and use stamps and go to the post office and wait a week for it to get there, and then a week for it to hear back. Do you remember long distance phone calls? I mean, they cost ridiculous amounts of money. And now I can FaceTime or Skype with my students in London for over an hour with no financial restrictions at all. Now our ability to communicate is changing so quickly that we can barely keep up with the technology. We're able to share our thoughts and collaborate with others with absolutely no limitations. This ease in communication gives us the ability to tap into the massive depth of intelligence in the world and realize that you have the ability to contribute to that intelligence as well. Every living thing, plant, animal, or human is sustained by its intelligence. The difference in levels of being, like what makes an animal more intelligent than a plant or what makes a human more intelligent than a dog, is the degree of its omnipresent intelligence. Now, as humans, we're on a higher plane of existence than animals. Humans also have levels of intelligence to grow into, though. As children, we're developmental stages. We're infants, and then we're toddlers and children and teenagers, and finally we're adults. But as adults, we're still growing and changing. But it's intellectual growth. Each and every one of us is striving to hit a higher plane of existence, or at least we should be. The power to continue growing as an adult is determined by the ability to control your actions and to consciously adjust to what's going on in your environment. Now, the greatest minds of the world are constantly making these kinds of adjustments. You can only grow by accepting the change that's happening in the world around you. And if you've learned through this course that thoughts are creative, we're figuring out bit by bit that the creative power originates in the universe, not so much in each individual. Now, you're a channel for the distribution of the creative energy that's brewing all over the universe. All sorts of things are buzzing around you right now, attracting one thing to another and trying to combine to form all sorts of new things. Now, that could be matter, or it could be connections between two people. It could be a new idea. It's as simple as hydrogen atoms mixing with oxygen and making water. Chemical reactions are happening all around you right now, even inside your body. They happen because of the attractive force in the universe. Now, that attractive force is the glue that holds all things together, like your body, or your desk, or the computer you're looking at, or this cup of tea, and the tea inside of it. Now, this attractive substance is holding everything together. Like attracts like, so my tea doesn't bind to the cup, or my body doesn't melt into the desk. The attractive force is so strong that all the atoms in your desk can support all sorts of weight, and my body stays my body. Just like your computer, right? It's one thing. It's like a solid block. Now, my desk is solid enough that even if I sat on it, it could handle it, right? Your thoughts work in the same way. They attract like thoughts, they repel unlike thoughts. When you're focused enough, you'll be able to tap into the universal mind, the source of all information and power. The stronger your focus, the more intense that attraction is, and the more powerful the bond will be. And when you understand this power of attraction, you can continue to make progress at a much faster and more rewarding pace. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. It's the law of love. In week 12, I told you that the law of love states that feeling gives vitality to your thoughts. Feeling is desire, and desire is love. Thoughts combined with love are invincible. But it's so much bigger than that. On a macro scale, the universal mind manifests in the objective. Through the attraction that each atom has for another atom in infinite degrees of intensity. The law of love is the combining force of all these atoms into things like your desk or your teacup or your computer or even your body. It comes through thoughts, but on a universal level. If you think about it and deconstruct it, your desk is a desk because you will it to be a desk. It could be a lot of other things, but you define it as a desk and you put your computer on it. It could be a shelf for books or a table to eat on. In an earthquake, it becomes something to hide under. In a flood, it becomes a raft. In the future, it might become firewood, and eventually it becomes dust, or it becomes scrap metal, and it becomes turned into another object. But before it was your desk, it was a piece of wood and some screws and some metal, and that through someone's thoughts, it all came together and became one thing. So instead of saying my computer sits on wood, screws, and metal, you say my computer sits on my desk. The wood was a tree, though, before it was even wood. That tree at one point was a pollinated flower that created a seed that took root and grew. Everything in the universe is being created and is changing at all times, even something as simple as your desk. The same creative force that built your desk, the seed, the tree, the creative mind that thought to put it all together, and the power that keeps every single atom in your desk from spinning away from each other at any time, is the same power that brings together everything in your life. This is the law of love. Now, I think this is the most beautiful idea that I've ever heard. The beauty, though, the beauty in growing is in the law of attraction. To grow, we have to get what we need for our growth. The tree pulled in nutrients. It received a lumberjack that changed it into a piece of wood. That wood received a designer who turned it into a desk. And that desk received an owner who put their computer on it and started working. Each step along the way, the wood gave of itself too, so we only get what we give, remember? Now, the tree gave us shade and oxygen. It gave the lumberjack work and a paycheck. It gave the designer a tool to work with, and it's now giving you a place to do your work. Growth is reciprocal. Now, that's kind of an abstract example, but it's kind of simple to just see and look at. So think about it on the lines of your life's purpose. How are you growing, and what do you need to grow more? What nutrients do you need? You know that in order to grow, you'll need the materials for that growth. And you know that you need to give to get. So this is why people always say, like, you have to spend money to make money. Now, that's kind of true, but I'm talking about it on a bigger scale. You have to give in order to get. Last week, I asked you to list the things you need to fulfill your life's purpose. I also asked you to get started doing the things you could do now with the resources that you have. Once you start this process, your mental vibrations will respond to similar mental vibrations, and you'll find that the resources you need will be attracted to you so you can continue growing. Abundance comes to you when you're abundant in your mind and working towards achieving your goals. Now, this seems again like I'm saying, like, if you're happy and you think happy things, that money just comes to you and starts pouring in, and that's not what I'm saying at all. I think that's where people get confused about the law of attraction. It isn't your ability to think about abundance that makes you wealthy. It's your ability to produce something that benefits others that makes you wealthy. You can only produce if you feel an abundance of confidence, focus, and knowledge about the things you're trying to produce. Success comes when you put 100% of your heart into your work. And the reason being is that when you are so heart-driven to produce something, you can't help but just to give it and give it and give it to other people. You want to give your knowledge, you want to share, you want people to have what you have. When you give this way, you receive in the same way. When you share what makes you happy, you are contributing to the pool of human happiness by making other people happy. All the great people, like the inventors, the billionaires, scientists, doctors, authors, artists, everyone, they're contributing to the collective happiness through their thoughts. Their contributions have value because they make people happy, and they're wealthy because of it. A thought is the energy that pulls things together, and it manifests in abundance. The universal mind is static. It's just information floating around. I like to think of the universal mind as like the internet. It's a collective combination of information accessible to you at any given time. You reach out for it with your own thoughts, which are dynamic. Your own thoughts move. That movement creates form. Like for instance, I was just at Midway Airport. I met a gentleman who has back pain. I told him how to fix it. Because of my passion for my job and his passion for fixing his back, we found ourselves in a conversation that could potentially help both of us. Now I got home and I emailed him some resources, and on the sidebar of my Gmail, it's giving me even more resources, little ads about airports and where I can park my car at the airports and what I can do for back pain, and it's all in the ads on the side. It's just a simple visual example of how the universal mind is starting to pull together information when you stay focused on one thing. When you're focused on something you're passionate about, more and more resources just find you. Now you have the power to pull the things to you that you need to further your growth, but it comes from the degree of attention that you put into something. Focusing your attention on your goal or the thing that you need to complete your goal will determine your capacity to get the knowledge that you need. So how do you do that? Well, first you have to have an interest, which you do, I hope. Next, you focus your attention on that interest, which is something that you're learning to do, to really focus and be attentive. The more attention that you put on something, the more interest you'll have, and you'll find yourself drawn to the knowledge to answer your questions, which will lead to more questions. This leads to more interest, which leads to more attention, and it's this constantly spinning cycle. You can literally feel it when you say like, wow, my wheels are starting to turn. My wheels are turning. It starts inside you, but eventually you can't help but share it with other people. And when you explain to someone what you're so intensely focused on, you might just grab their attention. Attention leads to interest. Interest leads to attention, and suddenly they're in the cycle with you. Their wheels start turning. They gain more interest, more attention, and more knowledge, and maybe they share it with other people. And those other people's wheels start turning, and the cycle goes on and on and on. Now this is marketing. The ability to grab someone's attention and create interest in your product, whatever your product is. It could be something to sell. It could be a service. It could be just what you love. It could be just your thoughts. And when someone is interested in what you're selling them, your thoughts have value. Now let me tell you about a story about my experience with this. I was working as an administrative assistant at a music school in San Francisco. I had a horrible boss. A 2-hour commute each way, and the job was just really not my dream job. But I endured it because I loved being surrounded by music and musicians all day. Now I decided one day that I didn't want to just go to a job, but I wanted to do something every day that made me a better person. And I found myself taking piano lessons again and starting to accompany singers at the school, even like taking some time to practice on my lunch break, or just for fun, just finding time to make music as often as I could. And my attention wasn't on my job anymore. It was on making music, what I loved and where my heart was. My interest was also on making music, and when I was around the students and the faculty and even my peers in my office, that's what I talked about the most. I was willing to give my talents and knowledge to others, and they gave back to me in return. Now in the beginning, it wasn't a financial trade at all. Maybe I'd play the piano for somebody when they were getting ready for an audition, and they would sing while I played, and that was a great trade. But when I decided to leave that job, all sorts of people came out of the woodwork to help me in my career. In fact, when I look back, it's kind of shocking to me how many really amazing connections I made in a pretty competitive town like San Francisco, and the things I was able to accomplish in such a short period of time at such a young age. When the time between giving my 2 weeks notice at this job and actually leaving the job, I had a guy offer me a gig playing at one of the best musical theater schools in the country. I also had a job teaching class piano in the suburbs. I had a part-time sales gig at a sheet music store where I could teach lessons also. But more importantly, I had the admiration and support of some of the best musicians in the city. It really led me to do some great things, but none of it would have happened if I weren't so willing to share my love for music with anybody who would listen. My experience in the Kihara world with resistance stretching has been the same kind of experience. I love what I do so much that I can't help but talk about it all the time. This has led me to some really amazing experiences in a life that I feel good about living each and every day. It would have been easy to stay in that job the desk job, and the horrible boss is gone now, and the commute could have been made easier, and I could have found some complacency there, but I didn't want it. I wanted something bigger for my life. And the only way to make that physically possible was to put my heart 100% into my bigger goals and tell everyone who was willing to listen. Now this life renovations course, it's not that much different for me. You're all taking this course and I'm putting it out there for just a few dollars a week because I'm so passionate about the message. When I give, I'm going to receive. And I've already received so much from you guys in the form of feedback and the changes that you've made and just seeing the things that are happening. And I'm getting so much out of just doing the class on my own. But I know that the more I give of this knowledge, the more information that I'll receive, which will eventually make this a profitable venture for me if it's the right thing. Now my goal has values to others, and I know this because it has value to me, and I've put myself into it 100%. So for the past few weeks, we've really focused a lot on fine-tuning your life's purpose. And you've started the process of putting it into action. But there are things that you still need to learn, and there are material goods that you need to acquire before you can move forward. And you can only do so much of this on your own. You have to have the support of the outside world to accomplish your goals. We know that the law of growth tells us that we will get the things we need for our growth. And this is how you do it. You put yourself out there. You share your dreams with others, and you focus your attention on what you want, and you'll grab others' attentions too. And when other people's wheels are spinning for you, there's no way you can't succeed. Now, what I want you to do in your journaling this week, I want you to make a reverse timeline of your life's purpose. The end result can feel kind of abstract because it's like your life's purpose, and sometimes it's broad, but the steps you need to take and the things you need to accomplish are real. Now, I've intentionally not shared my life purpose with you up to this point because first I didn't want you to compare it to yours, but I think now that we're talking about marketing and putting it out there, it's time to put it out there. So my goal is to throw a huge party when I'm 85 years old. And at this party, I want to be able to dance with my husband. I want to be surrounded by my children, and at this point they'll be old too, and they'll probably have their own children as well. I want to be able to look around the room and see all the people whose lives I've helped to change and the greatness that they've brought into the world. I want to be surrounded by my family and friends as they celebrate the way that I've enhanced their lives and feel fulfilled myself by the way that they've enhanced mine. Seems like a pretty broad topic. And that's good because I've got a lot of things to do. And one thing I know more than anything else is that careers and focus on topics can change. But I've learned in each career that my greatness is in helping others learn and grow. So I know that this is a good path for me. So if I start there and use inductive reasoning and go backwards, I can figure out what I need to do to get there, like what I actually need and if I'm on the right track. So if the end result is to have a big party with lots of people, then to do that, I gotta have grandkids. And to do that, I've gotta have children of my own, and I have to raise them to be amazing people. To do that, probably should get married to a really awesome husband. Not a bad plan, right? To do that, I have to start putting my energy into a really good relationship. To do that, I have to have the ability to share my life with a family and a schedule that accommodates my lifestyle. Now to do that, I can transform this course into a book or a series of books that allow me to help the most amount of people with the smallest amount of time commitment and make a living off of it. To do that, I gotta complete this course and I gotta get feedback from all you guys on how to make it better. But I can't do that until I finish chapters 19 through 24. And to do that, I have to post today's class online with all of the course materials. I've got to teach the full class today, which I'm in the process of doing. And when I wrote this list, it was much earlier in the morning. I had to send you guys the email for class. I had to finish writing and editing this class and practice it. And that's been my day. So notice how my list ended, the big picture, with lots of wiggle room. Like, I just don't have a big party with lots of people who love me that I love too. And it funnels down from this big picture into early this morning where it's a very detailed and very task driven, down to like, I had to take a shower and put on fancy clothes and mascara. See? Mascara. So now there are some other things that you need to consider when you're writing this out. Now, for instance, like, this isn't all I'm doing today. I have clients and I have workshops and I have other tasks and I've got to eat sometime, and I've got my mom's in town, so I'm going to see her and my sisters and the babies. There's a lot to do. But this keeps everything in perspective in relation to my big goal, and it makes it real clear when the other things that I'm doing are moot or they're not getting me to my goal. So for 1 week, I want you to spend 5 to 10 minutes every morning charting out a reverse to-do list, starting with your life's purpose and backtracking to small tasks that you need to do for the day. Now, most of the first part of the list is going to be the same every day, but as you get into each day, you're going to see that your tasks are changing and changing. Do this first thing in the morning before you start your work, before you do anything. I mean, I sit down with my journal with a cup of tea and I write and I plan and I think about what I need to do for the day. When you do this, you're keeping your attention on the things that you need to do to complete your life's purpose, which will keep your interest, which will get other people's attention and their interest. You can succeed if you keep your focus on your big goal. Now for your meditation this week, I want you to sit still in the silence, relax your muscles in your mind, allow yourself to be open to insight just like last week. And I want you to focus on one thing, your power to create. Now you live in a world that is constantly creating and changing, and you live in a body that's constantly creating and changing. When you get distracted, take a few deep breaths and let your thoughts sit for a second on the fact that your entire life exists based on air, your ability to breathe, which is the sustainer of all life. You have to breathe to live. As you're breathing, be aware that your spirit also lives and moves and also has to breathe. Your spirit's air is a subtler energy, and that's your thoughts, that thought energy. It's your spirit's air. It's what it breathes. Now, just like you can calm down and focus your breathing, you can calm down and focus your thinking. Your creative power is dependent on your ability to focus these thoughts and to the degree of knowing exactly what seed you need to plant to grow the big tree. I mean, like, what do you need to do right now to get to your life's purpose? You can only do that if you're focusing. You have to know exactly what you want. Now, when people meditate and they tell you to focus on your breathing, I really think like this is where we're going with this. And it's not something that you can do or that you could have done 4 months ago. It's really, really hard to sit down and just focus on your breathing for half an hour, but I think you guys are at the point where you can, and realizing that when you're breathing, you're also thinking along those same lines, and it's two things that you can control. Now for your body challenge this week, I want you to spend some time getting to know your body. When you do resistance stretching, you'll feel a stretching sensation in the muscle that you're using. Now the same goes for strength training. You'll also feel a burn in the muscle that's being used, and you've probably noticed this already. A sensation in the wrong place, though, is a sign that you're compensating, and you can learn to diagnose when something's wrong in your own body by knowing this. So today I want you to start focusing a bit on where the muscles are in your body as you're stretching. So I want you to continue to do your regular routine of like 30 minutes of movement, whether it's walking or practicing your skills or through some sort of physical fitness that you've been perfecting. And I want you to finish with a complete stretching routine, legs and arms. When you're doing your leg stretching, I want you to put your attention on the area of the body that these stretches are taking place instead of just going through the motions. So I want you to look at these charts. Let me see if I can pull these up real quick for you. And if you're looking at the video after the fact, this is in your packet of information. Now, what you see here is a circle with some arrows in it. And this is a, let me get my little tools out. Let me see if I can. Aha, there it is. Yay, I love this tool. All right, so what you're looking at is this circle. And at the front of the circle is an arrow that says psoas, and that's the front of your thigh. So this is kind of like if I took my leg in a circle and turned it this way and was looking down on it. Your psoas muscle is actually right in the front of your hip, here in the front. The psoas, perfectly in the front. Now if you go to the back of this and you follow the arrow to the other side, that says middle hamstring. Now your middle hamstring is also right, I'm sitting on my chair, right on the back here of your leg, in the very, very back, and you'll feel it there. Now again, your outer thighs are going to be on the outside of your legs here, and your inner thighs, you feel obviously on the inner thigh, it's going to be a long stretch, and also on the lats on the outside of your body here. So that's that one. Now we've also got one more because we actually have 8 stretches in your legs, remember? So this one, it's more of a cross pattern, and these are the muscles that are on diagonals for you. I want you to start paying attention to these as well. So if you look at this one as well, it's the same thing. It's just a circle and looking down. I like to break these up because there's a little bit of overlap between them, so it's easier to see them in two. Now again, I'm going to stand on my chair, would be funny if I fell. All right, your quads are kind of on the outside and the front. So they're right through here, and they're gonna be long in your leg. Your deep inner thigh is your groin. So it's the deep part here, the top of your inner thigh. With your hamstrings, you actually are gonna be looking at your outer hamstring, which is on the outside here, and also the inner hamstring, which is more on the inside of your legs, here and here. So as you're stretching these muscle groups, I want you to pay attention to which ones you're feeling the sensation in. If you're stretching your inside hamstring and you feel a sensation on the outside hamstring, something's wrong, and that's something that needs to be fixed. You can fix it yourself through some of our problem solving with balancing muscles, or some of the orders that I've done. But if you're having trouble with that, then you probably need to find a practitioner to do some stretching on you to get those things talking to your brain in the exact right way. All right? So that's your body challenge for this week. It's just a little bit more about awareness and learning a little more about what's going on in your body. Now for your diet challenge this week, we're gonna talk about traveling. Now keeping a healthy diet on the road can be really difficult, especially if you're driving on highways or eating in airports. Now I travel a lot and I find that it's not as difficult as you might think. But here's some quick tips for eating well on the road, or like when you're on a long day out. On your person, in your purse or in your backpack, you should keep a few staple things. One of them is a packet of freeze-dried miso soup. This is, we talked about miso soup and how fantastic it is, but it's a great boost in a pinch if you find yourself really needing some sustenance. All you need is hot water, and it's really great for you. You can get hot water anywhere. You can go to a gas station and get hot water. And you can have a meal just like that. You can also carry around packets of toasted nori. Remember that seaweed that you can eat, just seaweed? It's great for snacking, and it doesn't take up any space, and it doesn't go bad either, so you can eat it at any time. Nuts and seeds are a great option, but stay away from trail mix because there's a lot of sugar content in chocolate and in dried fruit, and we tend to eat it kind of mindlessly. So you want to stay out of eating too much sugar, but having some nuts or seeds is a really great plan. But sometimes we get sweet cravings, so it's good to have a little, like a small square of chocolate. Dark chocolate is best, but any kind of some sort of sweet little piece of candy or something to handle if you ever get a sweet craving. This is better than like all of a sudden you get a sweet craving and you go buy a candy bar, like a whole candy bar, or you go to the ice cream store, or you end up eating cake at dinner. It's a lot easier if you know that you've got a little piece of chocolate in your bag, right? When you travel, when you're on a road trip, take a cooler with you, fill it with bottled water, and have a couple of those bottles frozen so that it keeps everything cold. Fill the cooler up with lunch meat and fruit and vegetables, little things that you can grab and you can eat with your hands. Keep the things that are really easy to eat so that you don't have to let it clean up. Like you don't want to take apples and peanut butter because if you're driving, you just want to be able to eat an apple. Now, instead of stopping at fast food restaurants, stop at grocery stores. People never think about this, but there are grocery stores on the way to everywhere. And you can almost always find one if you pull off at a stop that has like a handful of hotel chains. Like if you find like 3 or 4 hotels on the little screen, I want to say the menu, on the little sign that says, there's a gas station this way and there's a McDonald's this way, but there's also 4 hotels this direction, you can almost always find a grocery store around those hotels. Grocery stores have prepared foods like salads or sandwiches, and they can save you from eating hamburgers and French fries. Always have a jar of nuts or seed handy to curb any dips in your blood sugar. So you just keep them there, and if you start to notice you're getting a little groggy, have some almonds or something. And then also, when you're traveling in your car, keep a travel-sized package of baby wipes or hand wipes in your car at all times to clean your hands, especially if you're eating fruit or vegetables. You're going to not want to have that stickiness on your hands. When you travel by plane, when you're going to the airport, be sure to eat a really good-sized, healthy meal before you leave for the airport. A good, healthy meal at the airport will cost you a ton of money, and there's a little bit of stress involved with like getting to a restaurant and trying to figure out what to eat, and you're running all over the place. So if you eat before, then it kind of takes all the pressure off. Take healthy snacks with you in your carry-on bag. Just like before, like the stuff that's in your purse, just add a couple extras in for your, for the airplane trip. If you have to eat at the airport, like if you didn't have time to go get a good meal, limit yourself to sit-down restaurants. Now the food quality is much better, and it'll help you stay calm before the flight. Plus you can substitute, you can get vegetables, you can get salads, you can eat really healthy things, but it will let you sit down and stay calm. Waiting in line at a fast food restaurant, the hustle and bustle around it and the in and out is just, It's a lot of stress, and you want to be as stress-free as possible before you get on a plane. Now also, take an empty water bottle with you to fill up at the water fountain. A lot of times we forget to take water bottles with us, and if you're traveling, it's a great time to have one with you. If you don't like drinking tap water, I would recommend getting electrolyte enhanced water when you're on a plane because your body absorbs it better. But never get on a plane without some sort of water, whether it's a bottle of your own or something that you buy. I've been on planes before that are very turbulent, and it keeps the flight attendants from doing a beverage service. And you don't want any excuse to not stay hydrated while you're on a plane. If you're in first class, or if you have a long flight that has a meal, order low sodium, non-dairy foods, vegetarian, vegan, or kosher meals. If you have a food option, you order it when you book your flight, when you book the ticket. Now, even if you don't have any restrictions, it's good to do this. Being at a high altitude affects your ability to taste. So airplane food is really, really high in sodium, which creates water retention. And these meals tend to be a bit fresher and healthier too because they're not mass produced like all the others. Now you won't usually get a good dessert with this, so just a side note, if you're a cookie eater like me, bring your own cookie. There's nothing more torturous than watching the rest of the plane slowly unwrap and eat a cookie while you're eating a bowl of cantaloupe. Trust me, it's enough to drive you crazy. Take your own cookie. Now once you get to your destination, stop at a grocery store and pick up some non-perishable staples for your whole trip. Check with your hotel to see if you have a refrigerator that makes it possible to stock up on things. You can get like yogurt and fresh fruit and all sorts of things like that. And then keep to your plan. If you're avoiding gluten or if you're avoiding dairy, don't just change because you're on vacation. There's nothing worse than feeling bad when you're staying in a hotel or when you're trying to really enjoy yourself. You don't want to do that feeling sluggish or having a stomach ache. And then also, have fun with it. Search for farmers markets and get locally grown produce and experience with different cuisines. This is actually a great way to experience the culture of a new city or even a new country. And then spend time walking around and exploring different neighborhoods. Walk around and read the menus at the restaurants. You'll get some exercise and you might just stumble upon something really amazing and new. So traveling can be a lot of fun and still done healthy if you keep to your diet plan. It might take a little change in your mindset, but I think you'll find that your trips will be much more enjoyable when you keep your goals in mind. So that's it for this week. It's time to start sharing your passions with the people around you. Start talking about your life's purpose and your dreams. To anybody who will listen. Start working on the things that you can, keeping your attention on your big goal, and the rest of the stuff will come to you when it's time, I promise. Well, I hope anyway. So that's it for this week. If you guys need to log off, go right ahead. If you want to stay on and ask some questions, just go ahead and put them right in the chat. All right? Otherwise, I will see you guys next Tuesday at noon. All right, and do we have any questions today? All right, I don't see any, so that's fine. I will go ahead and, is there a YouTube of the leg stretches? Yes. The stretches are actually they're set up the way that you learned them. So some of them are mixed in. So by now, hopefully, I was hoping you would have them memorized by now. There's also the sheets, if you have the white sheets, of each stretch. There are 4 pages. So if you have those printed up, they're pretty easy to find as well. So I would recommend that. Also what you could do is just as you're doing the stretches, you're going to do all of them this week. So you could do the YouTube of the stretches in the exact order that I taught them in the beginning. And then as you do the leg stretches, just check in and say, well, this one's for my quadriceps and this is where my quadriceps should be. And this is where my deep inner thigh is, so that's where that should be. All right? Does that help? Cool, yeah. I gotta think a little bit. By now you should have them memorized if you've been doing them. Nope. Not judging or anything, but I'm just saying that's how you can do them. It's okay, don't feel bad. Do you have anything else? Yeah. She says we should talk about a session soon if you can afford it. I think if you're really getting to the point, I mean, we're getting into the nitty-gritty stuff now, and sometimes you need to have some discussions privately about what's good and what's not, and what you need help with and what you don't. And I'm happy to work with you guys. So if any of you need some help, if you need some guidance, feel free to contact me. You can email me. You can just respond to the email that I send you about class. And I'm more than happy to talk to you guys about what your goals are and helping you fine tune a little bit more, helping you kind of see through some of your fears in the big picture. All right? So yeah, we can talk about that for sure. Awesome. Very good. So anyone else? We got anything else today? All right, I think that's it. Well, then I'm going to log off. I'm going to get these videos up. Also, sorry about the video from last week. It had some trouble uploading to YouTube, but I'll have the actual picture video in the email for this week. So if you guys want to go back and watch it again just to see what shirt I'm wearing, you can do that too. All right, I will see you guys next week. Have a good one.